It's our Christmas special. The month is December and it is packed with inspirational ideas. There's a masterclass on real Christmas trees, and there is also ideas on how you can create containers with colour in the midst of winter. Plus, I'll be demystifying and amazing you on 6 plants closely associated with Christmas. This is Step-by-Step Gardening with me, David Domoney, here at Bridgemere Show Gardens. Christmas trees are one of the most important parts of the festive season. In my masterclass, learn how to choose the perfect tree for your home. I love this time of year. It's when garden centres become forests of all the real trees that come into the stores. It's magical. And for many of us, the tree is it's the very heart of Christmas, in the corner of the lounge. Choosing the tree is so incredibly important, which is why we're going to do our masterclass in this episode dedicated to real trees, the different types, how to choose them, how to make them last longer. Now, when you go to choose your tree, what you might not fully appreciate is how long these trees have taken to grow this size. So from a little seed, it's grown onto a small plant and then grown on into a sapling, and that can take up to 3 years. Also, when that sapling has been put into the ground, it's anything from another 8 years plus to attain its height. So it's well over 10 years when you come to choose the tree. And it's not just left in the field. Oh no, there's a skill to growing these trees. And many of it is about pruning, because naturally these trees will grow quite long and outwards where they're not so dense on the inside. So what the farmers do, the Christmas tree farmers do, is they cut these laterals here to encourage internodal growth. So that's why it's quite thick in here, where if it was growing naturally, it'd be much more spread out. So every year it's pruned. And the traditional Nordmann, it's quite a broad tree, especially at the base, like this one is here. But you know what it's like. You get the tree back, you haven't got much space in the corner by the stairs or in the lounge, and you don't want it to go near the radiator. They have developed double pruned Nordmanns, known as the slimline, perfect for tighter spots. And it doesn't just end with the choice between the shape of the trees. There's also different varieties too. Now, you may have thought to yourself there's just one type of Christmas tree, but oh no. There are many different types. So in this masterclass, I've pulled together some of the more popular types, and I'll explain the differences in between each one so you can make an educated choice of what type of tree you want in your own home, or whether you want to try different trees each year. Well, the first one, this is probably the most popular tree in the UK today. It's called the Nordmann. Originally found by Alexander von Nordmann, a 19th century zoologist, who spotted them at the Caucasus mountain range, right the way down to the south and the east of the Black Sea. Now, it's a marvellous tree. The thing to think about when you look at these trees, they will in the wild grow up to about 30 or 40 metres, but they've been trimmed especially for Christmas trees. Now, the benefits of the Nordmann is it holds on its needles. It's a lovely shape, quite nice volume. The needles are soft, so it's pretty good for households that have got children or pets, because they're not always falling on the floor. It has a nice silvery underside to the needles themselves and forms a really good shape. And although quite pliable, the branches are quite strong to hold decorations. So the Nordmann will be, wherever you go, the most stocked tree because it is the most popular. Next one down the line. And the smell gets me every time. Now, this was a big tree in the 70s and the 80s, incredibly popular. The Norway spruce. And the Norway spruce itself originates from Central and Eastern Europe, and also the boreal forests of Scandinavia. And it is a traditional tree. And the fragrance, to me, smells like Christmas. The needles don't hold on quite as well as the Nordmann tree, but it's still a beautiful tree. So not so good for children and pets, but it's a very tight tree, and the fragrance made it very popular. So the Nordmann really superseded this tree because of its needle holding capacity. Next up, we've got the blue spruce. Now this is from the Rocky Mountains in the USA. I suppose it's a little bit in between these two. You get the fragrance, but not as much as this one, but this has better needle holding capacity than the spruce, but not as much needle holding capacity as the Nordmann. It's somewhere in between, and although it's called blue, it's got a slightly silvery blue effect, but it's not, you know, the pure blue. Next one here that we've got, this one here is the Fraser fir. Now the Fraser fir really comes from the southeast of the USA and the Appalachian Mountains, and as you can see, the needles slightly curl in. So it's a very characteristic shape, quite different from the Nordmann and the others. These bent in needles, so you can see the underside for a lovely blue effect. It's quite a tight tree that enables you to utilize it in tighter spaces, and it holds its needles on pretty well, almost as good as the Nordmann. And finally, we have the noble fir. Now, this is a real choice tree. I've got to say, it's so beautiful in its shape. As you can see, it's got tiers of branches as they go up. It's this haunting blue in colour. It holds its needles just as well as the Nordmann, but the colour itself and the shape is really lovely. It's a type of tree you actually don't want to hang any decorations on. You want to enjoy the beauty of it. I've had a few of these, but it adds something really special. Now this one originates again in America from Washington right the way across to northwestern California. And there you have it. Different trees, from the Nordmanns to the Norway spruce, the blue spruce, the Fraser and the noble as well. But of course there's masses of different types of artificial Christmas tree too. It's all about choosing the right one for your own home environment. If you are choosing a real tree, I'm now going to give you my hints and tips on how to get the best one. Here are my tips on how you can choose the best tree. It's all about the 5 F's. The first F, freshness. The best tip is to buy your Christmas tree from a professional Christmas tree retailer, like a garden centre. This way you can guarantee they're working with professional growers, harvesting the trees at the highest quality and at the right time of year. You can also use weight as a factor of freshness. Heavier trees generally are holding more moisture. Fit. Before going out to choose a tree, make sure you've measured the dimensions of the space the tree will go. You can measure the width and the height with a tape measure, or even as a guide use a piece of string. Then once you get to the garden centre, choose a tree that hasn't got a net on so you can see exactly what it looks like and get accurate dimensions. Foot. When you get the tree back home, you need to cut a section off the foot to expose tissue to help the tree take up moisture. In some cases, the foot is close to some of the lower branches, and you may need to, after you've trimmed it off, remove some of the lower branches. Also make sure that the foot is of the right size to go into the stand you have at home. Full. Take a good look at your tree from every angle. By shopping with someone that can hold the tree there whilst you can view it all the way around. Make sure your tree is full all the way down and the shape is just right for you. Family. Picking up your tree shouldn't be a chore on the way home from work. It's a family affair. Take the kids, choose the tree together, or go out as a couple to select your tree and have a nice meal out. Creating lasting memories are incredibly important, and doing it at Christmas whilst choosing the tree is a fun, festive activity. Okay, I'm going to choose 2 trees. This little cute one here, and this big one. And I'll take them home and show you what I do to prepare them before they go in the house. Join me later when I show you how to prepare your Christmas tree for your own home. But first, let me unwrap the history behind some of our favourite Christmas plants. An iconic Christmas plant that's on the dinner table on Christmas Day is the Brussels sprout. Love them or hate them, they have to be on the plate. It's part of Christmas, the Brussels sprout. But why are they so associated with Christmas? Well, the precursor to a Brussels sprout was eaten years and years ago, in fact, right back to ancient Rome. But the modern sprout that we eat today really came about in its popularity in an area that we now call Belgium, back in the 13th century. And it took a while, but by the time it came to the 16th century, it was very popular in Belgium, so much so, it is said, that they named the sprout after their capital city, Brussels, hence Brussels sprout. But during medieval time, around Europe and the UK, it was believed that evil spirits that are out in the garden had no place to hide because the leaves had all fallen from the trees. And the tight leaves that wrap around to become the Brussels sprout became the hiding point for evil spirits. So, just before cooking, a cross was cut into the bottom of the Brussels sprout. Now you may remember this, your parents or your grandparents putting a cut in the bottom of a Brussels sprout. Some people said it's to make the sprouts cook quicker. Other people thought that it made the Brussels sprouts taste less bitter. Oh no, it had nothing to do with that. The cross in the bottom of the Brussels sprout was meant to flush out the evil spirits so the sprouts were good to eat. Now they became popular for Christmas during the Victorian times because of course it's one of the vegetables that you can go out and harvest in the middle of winter. And of course it became very popular in the UK around the 20th century when rationing was about, because again it was a vegetable that you could grow your own and have it during the winter time. But today, we Brits love the Brussels sprout, so much so that we eat more Brussels sprouts than any other European country. So much so that in the UK, the industry of Brussels sprouts is worth £650 million, and we grow a lot of them. In fact, the area, the size of 3,240 football pitches, is down to growing Brussels sprouts. So when you see it on your plate on Christmas Day with lashings of gravy, turkey and roast buds, know that the Brussels sprout has earned its place as one of the Christmas plants. Picture any Christmas card where there's the inside of the house and you'll see one of these in it, the Poinsettia. Available everywhere. It is the Christmas houseplant. Now you think to yourself, hold on a minute, this plant which originates in Mexico and Central America, how has this plant from those warm climes been associated with Christmas? Well, in Mexico, it goes right the way back to the 16th century and an old tale of a little girl, Picea, who was on her way to the church on Christmas Eve to give blessings and thanks. And on the way, she was so poor, she didn't have any money to bring anything to the nativity, so she picked up some weeds from the ground. As she got there and laid them down, miraculously a miracle took place and they changed from weeds into spectacular green and red leaves. And it was known as the fleur de buena noche, the flower of the good night, or the flower of the holy night. And it is associated with Christmas because these are not flowers, these are in fact bracts, red leaves. The flowers are right in the heart. But if you take a look at the cluster of them, it looks like the Star of Bethlehem. Now, back in 1842, the ambassador to Mexico from the USA was so impressed with these plants, he took them back to America, where they started to become very, very popular. His name was João Poinsettia, hence the name Poinsettia. Now, all over the world, poinsettias are used during the Christmas time. You don't just get them in red. Oh no, there's many others. There's pinks, there's whites. I've even had a yellow one, and there's multicoloured one too. So the secret of success with growing them is don't get too attached to the coloured leaves, because as you grow them, if they survive into the beginning of the year and you grow them as a house plant, they will just be green. There's a very special process to get them to colour up again. And the biggest tip I can give you is to make sure the leaves do not get damaged by the cold. Always cover over the head as you take them from the till to the car and from the car into your home. Never let it sit in water, freely drained on a nice windowsill away from a radiator, and you'll enjoy it throughout Christmas. Earlier in the show, I shared my tips on choosing the perfect Christmas tree at the garden centre, and now I'm back. Here are my top tips for getting it ready for your home. When you've brought your Christmas tree back, there are a few preparation things that you can do before you take it inside the home that will keep it fresher for longer, and also enjoy it. I could get the smell of the spruce there. Feeling Christmassy already. Take time to enjoy it. Light up the fire pit. Get yourself a cheeky cup of tea. Put on some Christmas music. Why not? It's all part of the tradition. Oh, lovely. So, the thing is about a cut tree, you've got to think of it like cut flowers. When you buy cut flowers, obviously they've been attached to roots, and now you've only got stems. You have to supplement the water by putting water into a vase. Now, when a plant is cut, it starts to heal at the base, so it doesn't lose any water out of its stems. It's a similar thing when we get a cut, we scab over so we don't bleed. With a plant, it's not losing the moisture through its sap. So the first thing you do before you put cut flowers into a vase of water, just take a centimetre off the end. Expose fresh tissue so it can suck up the water. And that's the same with your Christmas tree. The stump at the end has healed over since it was cut. So the best thing to do when you get your tree at home, number one, cut off anything between 2 to 5 centimetres off the bottom stump. Use a saw, slice it all the way through. Obviously it's different. If it's a smaller tree, you need to cut a little less off, but a big tree, a 7-foot tree, about 5 centimetres to expose that fresh tissue to absorb the water. Next thing, with a pair of scissors, cut off the net. You really want to be freeing the branches of the tree so it can breathe and it can start to reform its shape. And then get hold of a bucket of water and stand your tree outside in that bucket of water so it can take up the moisture. It can take up to about 2 pints a tree very quickly, and keep that bucket topped up. And here's a tip. Give them a bang on the ground before you take them in. It loosens up any needles that were about to fall. Now here's the big secret with cut Christmas trees. They're not delivered into the store every week like milk or bacon or bread. It's not worth waiting till just before Christmas Eve to go in there and get the freshest one, because in the retailers, they're mostly all delivered at the same time, and that is the end of November. So don't wait thinking you'll get a fresher one later. On the contrary, going early enables you to choose the pick of the crop. Take a look, because they're all there to choose from, rather than some of them being sold over the next few weeks. And then take them home. Cut off the bottom of the stem, as I've mentioned, put it in water. So your tree is taking up moisture. You don't have to take it indoors straight away. Just leave it in the garden. And then when you're ready, you can then move it in. You've had the best pick of the crop, and your tree has been keeping itself hydrated. But the secret is making sure you've got a stand that can hold a reservoir of water, almost like a vase, a stabilising vase for your tree. And keep it topped up, because whilst it's inside the home, it will continue to drink. And never let the level of the water drop below the stump, because of course that will reseal again. But the secret is, don't let it sit flat on the bottom. How can I do it? If the tree's trying to take up more liquid and it's hard on the base, I suppose it's like having a flat straw. You know, you're drinking your drink and you squeeze the straw, you can't quite get it through. But if you loosen it up a bit, you can get more water out. That's what you want to do. Some stands have spikes which hold the base up just slightly higher, enabling it to get that more moisture. Or you could put a bit of gravel or a few stones at the bottom, really to stopping a seal from the stump to the bottom of the stand. And when you move it in, obviously, don't move it near any open fires, and keep it away from radiators, because that will dry them out as well. And if you're using low voltage lights on your tree that don't have high heat levels, it'll help keep your tree looking fresher for longer. But it's not just cut trees. There's also potted trees as well. I'll come on to these in a minute. I just need clear a bit of space. Now, if you go into garden centres, you'll see a lot of Christmas trees, usually smaller ones, because if there were bigger trees, they'd have bigger roots and they'd be in huge pots that are very difficult to manage inside and outside the house. So if you're looking for a smaller tree, you can get one in a container like this. This is very different from what you would see in the outside plant area of a garden centre, where conifers are being particularly grown in containers to be specimens to grow outside in the garden, not treated as Christmas trees at all. They're much more expensive because it's quite labour intensive to grow them over many years in pots on a nursery plant bed, rather than being grown in open ground, which is a lot less maintenance. So this tree here is a container tree. Back in the day, what used to happen, you used to be able to buy trees with roots, which were basically dug up from the field, you know, roots chopped off and stuck into a pot. There was very little chance of them surviving afterwards. So there's a new system that enables the tree to have a tighter root ball. And let me just show you here. I'm going to take the sack off. Now, if you were to take this inside the home, you'd need to keep it watered and away from a heat source. And any tree that you're hoping to plant out afterwards, you'd be looking to not only regularly water, but bring it in as late as you possibly can and take it out as early as you possibly can. So as you can see here, there are holes all the way around the pot. And this has been planted in the ground in the pot, so the moisture can still come through the holes. The tree's growing, but the bulk of the root system is contained within this. So if you bring your tree in to a cooler position inside the house, late as you can, take it out as early as you can, then take the pot off, you can plant it in your garden with a possibility of it being able to grow, as long as you've kept it well watered. But here's a tip. If it's been a very, very cold Christmas with frost and whatever, don't move it straight from the warmth inside your lounge into the back garden. Put it in the garage first till it climatizes itself before it comes out. You need to cut the pot off, dig a hole, fresh peat-free compost around the outside, and then plant the tree in your garden, and that'll give you a chance. There we go. And of course, with the Hessian bags, never lose these Hessian bags. They're great for collecting the leaves. You know, get the leaves on the lawn and the like. Stuff these up with leaves, put them behind the garage, at the back of the shed or something. The leaves will rot down, and so will the bag, making great leaf mould that you can add into your soil. Now, it doesn't just have to be Christmas trees. It's the conical shape and the evergreen nature that makes it work. There's lots of other options here. Now take a look at this. A little rosemary Christmas tree shaped to be conical. Very useful if you're having lamb for Christmas dinner. Oh, that's lovely. Just keep them watered. It's not just that. There's also a little lavender version, or a bay tree, all conical in shape. Or there are also little tiny ones as well for the kids. And if they keep them watered, again, not too close to heat, you can plant those out afterwards if you've taken care of them. And there are a few more dressed up ones. These are little Elwoodii that have been wrapped. The secret is remembering they're all outdoor plants that you're bringing inside. So if they can be inside for a short period of time, you can climatise them to get them back out. There's no reason why they shouldn't continue to grow. I have a competition for you for a chance to win one of these Eco Fuego wax-fuelled fire pits, plus a cinnamon-scented refill. For more information on terms and conditions and how to enter, just look in the description. Whilst at the garden centre, I chatted to people to find out their favourite things about Christmas.
My favourite thing about Christmas is spending time with family. That's most important.
My favourite thing about Christmas, a day off and a few cheeky ones, I think.
Well, that's a difficult one, but of course, my little one. She is so cute and she loves her Christmas dinner. It's always something special. And of course, Father Christmas always leaves a little present.
My favourite thing about Christmas is like all the food, family coming together and having a jolly good time and watching TV and being merry, really, yes.
My favourite thing about Christmas is being with family and the giving of gifts and just all being together.
Getting home from work on Christmas Eve, so we finish at 5 o'clock, getting home to a chill bottle of champagne out the fridge, popping that cork and having it with picky foods in the evening.
My favourite thing about Christmas is going out with friends on Christmas Eve.
My favourite thing about Christmas is watching my old Christmas movies, all the favourites, with a hot chocolate going and a log burner going in the corner.
Family, presents, carol services and decorating the Christmas tree.
My favourite thing about Christmas is selling out of all turkeys.
Now, out of all the beautiful plants that are associated with Christmas, our plant of the month for December is the cyclamen. Gorgeous, standard-like flowers, swept back, hovering above, beautiful marbled foliage. It's just so gorgeous. But you've got to be very careful buying cyclamen, because the location of the cyclamen in a garden centre will give you an indication of how and where to put it. For a start off, if you go in the houseplant department, there's cyclamen here that are grown specifically as indoor plants. And if you planted them in tubs or containers or out in the garden, they'd be dead pretty quickly when it gets cold. So these are houseplant cyclamen. Then if you're in the garden centre and you walk outside, before you get to the outside plant area, the covered area that's unheated of a garden centre, you'll see these cyclamen here. Now these are half hardy, which means they can survive outside in a sheltered position, but when the weather gets really, really cold after January and the like, they will not live. But they will give you a great deal of colour from autumn and early winter. And then there are these cyclamen here, cyclamen coum and other varieties that are specifically hardy. And these are the ones that you can buy, that you put in your garden, that will come up in flower year after year. And you probably notice there is a slight difference in the size of the flowers of these particular types, which will give you a bit of an indication. Right, let's have a look at the magic of the cyclamen, because it means so much to people in different cultures. Now, cyclamen originate from Europe and Western Asia. In fact, the indoor ones are Cyclamen persicum from Persia, and the outdoor ones, Cyclamen coum, are from Turkey. But in different cultures, they're all closely associated with love. In Japan, it's known as the flower of love, and it is given to your loved one on Valentine's Day. In fact, in Japan, this is a really funny one, there's also a belief that the flower petals actually look like little rabbit's ears, and it has the nickname bunny flowers. But in certain cultures, the shape of the leaf, which is a heart shape, meant that the outdoor varieties were planted in the gardens around a church, a monastery, or any other holy place. And it doesn't matter about the denomination, it was all identified as cyclamen being the flower of love. Now, the association with cyclamen at Christmas is a Christian tradition. It was believed when Mary was visited by the angel Gabriel to let her know of her impending motherhood, that she bowed her head in reverence, and all the cyclamen around nodded their heads down in reverence too. And that's the association. But I think that's what makes this plant so incredibly special. Its flowers are borne up above the foliage. It's almost like a standard flagpole with these swept back flowers just at the top and all the buds coming in underneath. And it's not just the beauty of the flowers, it's also the foliage as well. The beautiful silver marbling on the emerald green leaves makes it such a special plant. Well, let me give you some hints and tips if you're thinking of buying a cyclamen for your own home. First of all, the indoor variety, Cyclamen persicum. Do you know something interesting? When I first got into horticulture, and I was at college at 17 years old, and the tutors were showing us about pollination, about plants cross-pollinating with each other, they showed us how to pollinate a cyclamen, and I'm actually going to show you how to do it. Okay, so what you've got is you've got the male part of the plant, which is the pollen, and then you've got the pistil, which is the female part, and the end of the pistil is a little tiny, almost like a hair that's coming out the centre of the cyclamen. That's where the female will receive the pollen. So what you had to do was bend back the flower and flick it with the back of your hand like that, and it would deposit pollen just on the end. As you can see there's just the pollen on the top of my finger. You would then go to another cyclamen, and where the stigma comes out, you would touch it with the pollen. Now, that flower has been pollinated. When the petals fall off, it will produce seed, and it will be a brand new variety, a combination between this one and this one to make a very unique plant. Amazing. This taught me about pollination. That's why it's so special to me. Now, as a houseplant, it's great. It's probably not the longest lasting houseplant you have because it can be a bit temperamental to water, but it's certainly a beautiful flowering plant to have throughout Christmas. There are ways that you can help the plant grow afterwards and get it to produce flower and foliage again, but it's not that easy. You should see it really as a longer lasting growing cut flower on the windowsill really. So the secret is, don't put it above a radiator. That's the thing. You know, the fluctuation of heat doesn't help them in any way. Not a cold environment, but not overly heated, not on a shelf in front of a radiator or by the fire. That's the first thing. Second thing is watering. These pot covers are great, but never water the plant in the pot cover, because what happens is the water can't escape. You're not sure how much you've watered, and if the plant ends up sitting in water, it'll rot it very quickly. The secret is put the plug in the sink, put a couple of inches of water, stand all your cyclamen plants in there. Like a wick, they'll draw up the water through capillary action. Leave them in the sink for about an hour and then unplug it, let the water drain away, and then put your cyclamen plants back in the pots and containers. When the flowers finish, just pluck them off, and if any leaves look a little bit untidy, just pull those off too, and it'll make a lovely houseplant throughout the winter. Now that's the cyclamen inside your home to give a great deal of colour and interest. Now outside varieties, which are these lovely half-hardy flowering ones, are perfect. Window boxes, containers, hanging baskets, anything where your summer plants have come to an end but some of your evergreens are still growing, you can take out the old geraniums and put in these lovely cyclamen. In fact, you could have started planting these way back at the beginning of autumn, but if you plant them now, they'll go well into the winter just before the hard frosts, and if they're in a sheltered position and are not overwatered, they'll last even longer. And you can plant these up yourself or buy them already pre-planted like this one here. Aren't they colourful? Bringing an element of colour in a season that we naturally think winter is devoid of colour. Cyclamen really do it. And the thing I like about these is they are in fact breeding different types of cyclamen as well. So let me show you some unusual ones. Have a look at this one here. It's brand new. It's called wind bells, and there are different colours of these as well. And they've bred them so the flower is down rather than up and open compared to something like this. It looks really interesting. Just looks like little bells, and that's where it's got its name. Or there's this variety just here. This one's called Morange Mix. It's a bit rococo in its design with these frilly petals around the outside. You could even start a collection of these plants. Oh, look at this one here. This one here is another one. This one's called Jix. The particular variety is salmon, obviously the colour. And the petals are almost opening out. And if you look just underneath there, isn't that gorgeous? Or from the top, something very different. And how about this one here? Look at the foliage. That's what this one really. This is Donatello Silverleaf, and look at the markings of the foliage there. Just gorgeous. You want to see my favourite? Just this shouted out to me. I like this one here. Gorgeous colouring. Because it's light just at the tip and then slightly darker pink at the back, it almost looks as if it's glowing. When you go into the garden centre, knock yourself out. There's so many different options about. It's all about the detail. So grow these in a container, tub or basket, and this will give you colour and plenty of flower right the way up to the really hard frosts. So that's your indoor cyclamen worked out, and that's your flowering tubs and containers cyclamen. Now, let me just show you these ones here. Now, these are the hardy varieties that you plant in the ground in your garden. They do particularly well in dappled shade or underneath trees or on a bank, because they stay in the ground and they can live for an incredibly long time. Now, the flowers are much more dainty than the cultivated varieties that have been particularly grown for their flower colour, but not much attention on how hard they are. Where these plants here are grown for their toughness. The flowers themselves, I've got a little pink one here as well. Let me move that over to show you. They're all different varieties. You can see from the label up here, you've got one. This is Siberia Pink and Siberia White. They're part of the coum family. In fact, you can buy them pre-packed as well. So if you go in the garden and you buy them and you get the little corms at the base and you can plant them up. It's a cheaper way of doing it. But these ones here, slightly more expensive per plant, but they've been pre-grown. So you're buying time really with these ones. So with the permanent garden cyclamen, there are two real types. Hedropholium is one variety, and that flowers from late autumn into winter. And then you've got the cyclamen coum, and these flower really from late winter into early spring. So there's a good choice. Well, there you have it. From indoor to outdoor to tubs and containers, cyclamen really give you a flower to follow a theme. They're incredibly good value for money. They're not an expensive plant as they're easy to grow. So if you've not grown them before, give them a go. And if you are growing them as a houseplant, try them outside or vice versa, because it is a beautiful, even though we've got it as December plant of the month, it'll span from autumn right the way through to the beginning of spring. Another Christmas plant, or rather collection of plants, is in fact a wreath hung on the door. There we are. Now, how's that associated with Christmas? Well, many Roman and pre-Christian traditions all had a circle of evergreens. And think about it, the laurel circle that was placed also on the heads of those Olympians because it signified eternity and victory. But of course, early Christians too, a circle of evergreen showing the everlasting love of God. And this circle makes a particular point, not necessarily just to hang on a door. There was also the Advent wreath, which had 4 candles. Each one was lit to signify the 4 Sundays before Christmas. Now, placing a wreath on the door was also a Christian and pagan symbol of welcome to festivities. And the Victorians that initiated a lot of our Christmas tradition used them to mark the welcome to friends and family as they come to your house for Christmas. Generally speaking, they weren't too complicated. It was just leaves and berries collected either from the garden or a woodland walk, and then decorated with a ribbon, something very simple and traditional. Because it is evergreens that add the colour and the feeling of Christmas. One plant that is synonymous with Christmas and kissing is mistletoe. But how did it become so connected with Christmas? Well, first of all, mistletoe is a semi-parasitic plant, which means it lives off branches. It roots itself into branches of trees, particularly oak, poplar and apple in the UK and all over Europe. And right back in history, the Druids thought this was incredibly special because evergreens were seen as special plants to still have life in the middle of the winter time. But with mistletoe being evergreen, it turned deciduous trees that should be bare into having green foliage, which is the mistletoe leaves. So the Druids thought that was incredibly sacred. They believed it promoted virility, fertility and protection as well. Now the Christians adopted mistletoe to signify again renewal, but also forgiveness. And in the 18th century, a tradition of hanging mistletoe up and kissing underneath it was born. Traditionally, a berry was removed after each kiss, signifying purity and dwindling opportunity. But because the berries are poisonous, it's not done that often today. Now that is the secret of mistletoe. A bunch hung above a doorway to kiss and give merriment and bring luck and good fortune too. A very worthy Christmas plant. During the winter, you can still enjoy wonderful colour in the garden. Here is my guide to planting beautiful containers to brighten up the colder months. You think of all the hard work that we do to our homes for Christmas. Bringing in the big Christmas tree, putting all the decorations up, laying out the table for Christmas dinner, every windowsill with ornaments, snow globes, everything. The work that we do. A simple job though is the front of the house. It shouldn't just be left to the wreath on the front door. Planting up Christmas containers can really give a warm welcome to visitors that come into your home. But guess what? The right choice of plants at the end of Christmas, you can put them into the garden and effectively grow your own Christmas decorations, saving money, making sure the decorations mean something more than just buying it from a florist. But also, you can have the breadth and the width of different types of plants to make something incredibly spectacular. So what I'm going to show you is planting up Christmas containers, how to embellish them, and then I've got a little door that we're going to put these containers out the front and you can judge for yourself how much of a difference they make. First of all, we are not short of plants that we can utilise to put into containers at Christmas as a whole host. These lovely skimmias here. As you see this one, this is a combination of 2 skimmias in the same pot. This is a rubella, which is buds. They're not berries, they're buds. And this one here is a lighter colour version of it. And if you're interested in skimmias, It was Plant of the Month in our last episode, our November episode. So go back and check it out. There's loads of great information. And I'm going to put a skimmia in there. There was another skimmia that we had, Wreathsii, again featured in the last episode. But I just want to show you the versatility and how they can just give you much more than November colour, December as well. Plus, we've also got some beautiful plants like this, the Christmas rose, Helleborus. Funnily enough, if you're looking back into the last episode for skimmias, next episode we're going to be filming, we'll focus in specifically on hellebores, but this particular variety here, Christmas Carol. What a cracker. And the masses of pure virginal white flowers looks just so lovely at this time of year for containers. And of course, dogwood. Now, let me just show you something about dogwood, because obviously the red stems give a lovely Christmas feel to it. You can also get golden varieties as well. Beautiful plant. But I'll show you something from the florist. I went in to have a look to see what you could buy to embellish containers that you could actually stick in the containers with the plants. And I bought some here. You're going to think I'm crazy. I bought them here. I've still got them in the in a little container that I've used to hold the water. £1.65 a stem. £1.65 a stem. If you were to buy 9 stems to decorate inside of pots, it's about the same price as actually buying the plant. Take a look at that. £14.99, beautiful corners. If you were to plant that in your garden, you could harvest your own stems to utilise in a variety of different ways in your containers, from the moment the leaf falls in autumn right the way through before the new leaves start coming up again in spring. So it's a great value to add. But what happens with the skimmias, okay, and the hellebores, you plant them in the containers and you enjoy them during the Christmas time. After Christmas, you plant them all out, and every year they get bigger and better, and you're growing your own Christmas decorations. So you can cut fresh from the skimmia. It holds itself pretty well as a cut flower or cut bud, which is great for things like wreaths or decoration garlands that you can take inside. Likewise, you've got the cornice as well. But look, there's other things. Growing things like holly in a garden as well. This is a lovely variegated variety here. There are many to choose from. It's about growing your own Christmas decorations that you can clip from and use inside. Even lavender, the silver of lavender as a contrast. Oh, I love this one here. Now, I showed you this pyracantha in the last episode as well, when we were talking about nature's larder for birds to come into the garden. So if you want to learn more about the birds that visit, again, go to the last episode. We're starting to build a really good library of content that's specific to the month, enabling you to get some hopefully inspirational ideas to enjoy your garden a lot better, all step by step. Now, the lovely berries here, you could take snippets of that to utilise in containers, or actually plant one of these in the container and again plant it out afterwards. Right. That's enough chatting. I ought to start planting. So I'm not going to make it complicated. It's always best, if you're using containers or planting alpines or heathers, don't do one. Do them in nests, either 3s, 5s, 7s, just an odd number that groups them together so it becomes a nest. I think that's the appropriate word. Now, choose your container. There's lots of different types, and in a future episode we'll be taking a look at the classification of containers. But I've chosen this glazed one here to get started. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to put 3 plants in it, and then I'm going to embellish it with some natural Christmas decorations. So first of all, make sure your container has got a drainage hole. So you've got free drainage with the pot itself. I'm using peat-free compost inside, and I'm just going to start planting. First up, give the pot a little bit of a squeeze at the base, and then it comes out. And you can more or less nestle, that's me behind the plant there. You can nestle it in the back. Coming over to this side here, I'm going to get the cornice into position as well, but I'm just going to backfill a little bit around the container. Lovely activity to get the kids involved as well. Planting something. It's the type of thing you can do quite comfortably with many different members of the family. So everybody shares a part. We all decorate the tree together. It's a key thing. I remember as a child helping my mum and dad decorate the Christmas tree. It's a big part of Christmas, and my kids are the same. You know, do the embellishments together. Now, the cornice I'm going to put in at the back here. Just settle that in. So they're all at the same level in the container, and see where the surface of the soil is that it was in its original pot. Never mound up over that. Keep that level. What I'm doing here is what we call scaling the planting from the top down to the bottom, and obviously the smaller plants at the front is the direction you're facing the container, so you can see everything. More compost in there. Really drive your fingers down to make sure it's all steady. I'll have you. Lovely plants of skimmias. I think it all works. If you think of just natural decorations, the colours of the Christmas is really emerald green and red, and we have that in nature, from the foliage, the berries and the stems. Just nestle that. Now, normally I'd be planting it that way, facing me, so I can see what it looks like, but for television I'm facing it your way. Let's get a bit more compost in to get that all comfortable and nestled in. So I'm not planning the plants to be in this container all their lives. I'm looking for it to be good winter colour for me for Christmas and after Christmas, and then when it comes into spring I'll plant these into the garden, and I've got the container ready for my geraniums and petunias and busy lizzies for my summer colour. So there I have it. Combination of green foliage, lovely flower buds, and they'll hold these buds right the way to the spring, and some berry as well. Looks pretty Christmassy, but I can make it even more Christmassy. Now, foraging is a real big plus to create some nice decoration effect. The simple pine cones that you find on a woodland walk, sprayed up in different ways. This one's gold, but you could just as easily do red or white or a few others. Adding to position creates quite a natural effect. And likewise, other natural things that you can utilise is any form of greenery you've got in the garden. Here at the bottom of the garden there are quite a few conifers, and you can take some clippings like this. Now, see this container here? It's got the hellebores in. Just at the back, I can insert some of them to just give a little bit of height to the container whilst making it feel a bit more Christmassy. So you can get that. You see it when you walk outside florist stores with all their displays at the front, Christmassy. It's all about reusing natural materials that are readily available in the garden. In fact, I've clipped some of the conifers here and a little bit of a pine cone. I've just wired it together here, a little bit of floristry wire at the side. So I've got conifer, cone and the baubles. And then just attach it to the side. You can add as many or as little as you wish. And that way, it just starts to embellish. In fact, with battery-operated lights, you can also light them as well, outside your front door, looking particularly smart. You can use twigs as well, whatever you can harvest as you're walking around. These are some of my old bean poles that I used this year. There we are. Made a little star on there as well, but you can make lots of different shapes that you can insert and add and then embellish with tinsel or whatever you fancy. Here's something that I did a little bit earlier with this is a lovely creation, and it's all from the garden. Conifers just from the back there, cortaderia, which is pampas grass as the beard, a little Christmas bauble there as the nose, and with a bit of wire and moss, there's the hat. And I've got over here a log that I've cut a hole in. Just insert that in, and there you go. Christmas decorations, you should grow your own. It's evergreen, stem colour, it's berry, or it's flower bud. Anything with an element of interest really goes a long way to creating a visual effect. Right, I'm now going to move these into position by the doorway and you can see for yourself the difference. And let's finish with one final Christmas flourish. Here are two more iconic Christmas plants. Ah, the magic of holly at Christmas time. What a lovely plant. Now, even back in ancient times, holly was seen as something incredibly special. Originating from the UK and in Europe, the Druids loved it. They thought it was a sacred plant, a plant of protection, and a plant that symbolises life during dormancy. In fact, churches and homes used to take sprigs of holly to decorate, to show eternal life. And there is the battle that's said between the holly king that rules the dark months of the year and the oak king that rules the light. And they battle with each other during the solstices to take control. But it is closely associated with Christmas, mainly in 1843, when the novel came out, A Christmas Carol, and heavily featured greenery as part of the backdrop to the story. And it is also said that it represents the crown of thorn. The spikes on the holly represents the crown of thorn on Jesus, and the red berries denotes Jesus's blood. But the interesting thing about holly, naturally, it's not spiky. Now, there are cultivated varieties that have been bred to always be spiky, or different colours, like this lovely golden one here, and there are silver variegated ones too. But naturally, holly, the indigenous species, has smooth leaves. And it's only when it's attacked does it grow back spiky as a defence mechanism. So if you go for a walk in a wooded area, sometimes you see smooth leaves on the top of a holly and spiky leaves at the bottom, because it's where the goats or the deer or the hedge trimmer cuts into the foliage, and through a process of plant heterophilia, it grows back with spiky leaves to protect itself. But I have to say, growing your own Christmas decorations couldn't be easier with beautiful evergreen plants like this that you can use to make wreaths, to make garlands or other decorations. They really work, which is why I think holly is one of my favourite Christmas plants. The Christmas tree. How did that end up as the hero of Christmas? Well, if you go right the way back in time, in the 16th century, the practice of taking evergreens inside and decorating them with fruits and nuts and candles was to signify renewal. So, how did Christmas trees start? Well, it was Queen Charlotte was the first person in high society to actually bring in Christmas trees. But where it became a trend and really took off was 1848, when Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, had a Christmas tree and placed it on a table at the palace with presents underneath, and it was featured in a newspaper called Illustrated News. And it wasn't just all text, there was an artist's impression of this tree in position, and suddenly there was a massive trend and it went out, and everybody wanted Christmas trees inside the home because they signified the element and essence of Christmas, decorated and lit up. Well, there you have it, loads of great ideas for Christmas. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more great content like this. And if you turn on your notifications, we'll give you a nod when a new video comes about. Just take this moment to wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas.